Good morning students. So this is class 11th physics, chapter number 6 and lecture number 2. Okay, so in lecture number 1 you studied about work. You studied that work can be positive, it can be negative or it can be zero. Okay, and you learned the formula of work done, that is the dot product of force and displacement vector. Okay, so as name of your chapter is work, power and energy. Okay, so we have studied about work. Today we'll be studying about power and energy. Okay, so power is defined as the ratio of work done to the time taken. For example, if a man can do a lot of work, then you will say he is more powerful, right? So that means power is directly proportional to work done. And if the same man does that much work in less time, then also you will say that he is very powerful. That means power is inversely proportional to time. Okay, so this is the formula of power, that is work done upon time taken. Okay, so let us derive a formula of power. So as you know, a small work done for a displacement of ds is f dot ds, and from here power is nothing but dw by dt, that is a small work done in a small interval of time t. So putting here the value of dw, that is f dot ds upon dt. Now you know ds by dt is nothing but v, that is distance upon time, so it becomes f dot v. So from here we can say that power can be defined as the dot product of force and velocity vector. Okay, so because it is a dot product, that means power is a scalar quantity, because as I have told you earlier as well, the answer from a dot product always comes to be a scalar quantity, right? And the SI unit of power is watt, W-A-T-T, watt. Okay, so now from this formula, that is power is equals to dw by dt, let us define 1 watt. So see, if work done is 1 joule and time taken is 1 second, then your power will become 1 watt. So we can say if 1 joule of work is done in 1 second, then power is said to be 1 watt. Okay. There is one more unit of power which is mostly used in engineering. That unit is horsepower, and 1 horsepower is equals to 746 watts. Okay, so this is about power, and let us start now energy. So energy is nothing but capacity to do work, and now because work is a form of energy only, so therefore energy also have same units of work, or you can say work also has same units of energy, that is joules or ergs. Joules is the SI unit and ergs is the CGS unit. Okay, so you all must have studied about the two types of energies, that is kinetic energy and potential energy. Okay, so we have kinetic energy and potential energy. Kinetic energy is that energy which is possessed by a body by virtue of its motion, or you can say due to its motion. If a body is in motion, then we can say it has kinetic energy. Okay, we'll be driving an equation for kinetic energy as well. Similarly, potential energy is that energy which is possessed by the body due to its position in some field. Okay, so kinetic energy is due to due to the motion of the body, and potential energy is due to the position of the body in any field, right? So let us study about the formula of kinetic energy first. Okay, so let us suppose this is any body of mass m. A force F is applied on it, due to which it undergoes a small displacement of ds, and then it starts moving with the speed of v, right? So now, as you know, the formula of force is ma, and a can be written as dv by dt, that is change in velocity per unit time, right? And you also know so mark it first equation first. Okay, so you also know dw is f dot ds. Now f and displacement are in same direction, that means angle is 0 and cos 0 is 1, so f dot ds will become f ds. Now put the value of f from first equation here, so that will be m dv by dt into ds. Now clearly look here, ds by dt, this is nothing but v. So this equation becomes dw is equals to mv dv. Right? Now we want to calculate work done, so we will integrate both the sides. We are integrating this side from 0 to w, and we are integrating velocity from 0 to v. that is initial to final, right? So now you know how to do integration. M is a constant, it will come outside and your answer will come to be half mv square. So this work done is stored as the kinetic energy, or you can say this work done is converted into kinetic energy, due to which the body is having a velocity v. Okay. Now from this formula of kinetic energy, that is half mv square, we can conclude some things. As you can see, kinetic energy is directly proportional to m and directly proportional to square of velocity. That means a heavy body would be having more kinetic energy, or you can say if a body is moving with very higher velocity, then also it would be having very higher kinetic energy. Second is kinetic energy is always positive. Why? See, because mass of a body is always positive, it can't be negative. And v square, that is square of something, is again also positive. That means kinetic energy will also always come to be positive only. Third point about the kinetic energy is that kinetic energy depends on the frame of reference. Again, you know what is frame of reference, this you have already studied. So I am giving you one example how you can say that kinetic energy depends on frame of reference. This I have given you before as well. This is the same example. Let us say A and B are sitting in any bus which is moving with the velocity v, and C is a stationary observer which is outside the bus. Now C will say, see, according to C, B is moving. So C will say that B has some kinetic energy, right? But according to A, B is at rest. Therefore, A will say that B does not have any kinetic energy. So according to A and C, B has kinetic energy, and according to according to A, it does not have kinetic energy, and according to C, it has kinetic energy. That means kinetic energy depends on frame of reference, because A and C have different frame of reference. Therefore, according to them, the statement of kinetic energy is also different, right? Okay, so now let us derive a relation between kinetic energy and linear momentum. So you know kinetic energy is defined as half mv square, and linear momentum is defined as the product of mass and velocity. Okay, so what we do, we just multiply and divide by m in the equation of kinetic energy. So this will be half, m into m will be m square into v square, and dividing it by m. So m square v square will be nothing but p square. Okay, so kinetic energy will become p square upon 2m. So this is the relation between kinetic energy and linear momentum. Now from here, if you clearly see, if p is 0, that is, if linear momentum of any body is 0, kinetic energy will also come to be 0. That is, a body cannot have kinetic energy without having linear momentum, and vice versa. That is, if a body is not having linear momentum, it cannot have kinetic energy, or a body is not having kinetic energy, then it can't have linear momentum. Okay, so a body can't have kinetic energy without having linear momentum according to this equation. Okay, so I hope it is clear. Now we'll start a theorem which is work energy theorem. Okay, so the next is work energy theorem. It says that work done by net force in displacing a body is equal to change in kinetic energy of the body, provided change in potential energy is 0. See, because as you know, total energy is kinetic energy plus potential energy. If we are saying change in potential energy is 0, that means according to work energy theorem, work done will be equal to change in kinetic energy. Okay, so now let us see the proof of this theorem. So the derivation is almost similar which we did for kinetic energy. Again, we are taking F is equals to ma, A is dV by dt, dW is FdS, or you can convert it into mv dV as we did earlier. So again, integrating them from 0 to W, and now we are integrating it from U to V. That is, we are saying, let us say initial velocity was U, and after applying force F, the velocity becomes V. So now when you will integrate it, it will become mv square by 2, and then limits are from U to V. So just put the limits, that is upper limit minus lower limit. You will get the answer to be half mv square minus half mu square. So see, this is nothing but final kinetic energy, and this is nothing but initial kinetic energy. So we can say work done is equals to kinetic energy final minus kinetic energy initial. So this is the proof of work energy theorem, which says that work done in displacing a body will be equal to change in its kinetic energy provided change in potential energy is 0, right? So from here we can say this work done on the body is equal to increase in kinetic energy of the body, because we are assuming after applying force the velocity has become v, and obviously it would be greater. We are assuming v to be greater than u. So this kinetic energy, that means it is increasing. So work done on the body is equals to increase in kinetic energy of the body. And from here you can also conclude that work done by the body, this is on the body, work done by the body will be equal to decrease in kinetic energy of the body. Okay, so this work energy theorem is applicable for conservative as well as non-conservative forces. Okay, so the next is potential energy of a spring. So as I told you earlier, potential energy is nothing but energy possessed by a body due to its position in some field, right? So let us study about potential energy of a spring, and before that let us see the what is spring constant. Okay, so suppose this is a spring whose one end is attached and to the other end a block of mass m, let's say, is attached. Okay, so this position is the equilibrium position, that is in this position the spring is neither stretched nor compressed. So we are saying O is our equilibrium or mean position, right? Let us say after some time it is stretched to a displacement of x, that is it is given a displacement x from the mean position. Okay, so can you tell me what will happen? Imagine yourself when you stretch a spring, what happens when you leave it? So as soon as you leave it, it comes back to its it tries to comes back to its original position, right? So what can you say, in which direction force acts on it? That means, see, if it was here, now you stretched it to here, when you leave it, it will come like this. That means a force is there which is helping the spring to come back to its position. So we can say a force is acting in backward direction. So let us see what is the value of that force. And because that force is helping this mass to restore its original position, therefore we call this force to be restoring force. Okay, so it is seen that this restoring force is directly proportional to displacement. If we talk about magnitude, because I think you must have seen in practicals also that whenever you stretch as much as more you stretch or compress the spring, more the force acts on it. Because suppose if it is stretched up to this side, up to this much portion, then it will again come this side, but now with a greater force. That means restoring force is directly proportional to this displacement, its magnitude. Now because see, displacement is in this direction and this force is acting in backward direction, as I told you. That means their direction is opposite. So we can say F is directly proportional to minus x. That is, this force will always act in the opposite direction of displacement. See, this is the case of stretching. If suppose I compress it, then can you tell me where the force will act? Now the force will act in outward direction. If it is here, if it is compressed like this, now on this the force will act in outward direction. That means again displacement is in backward direction while we are compressing it, and force is coming to be in forward direction. Again this is true, that is force is directly proportional to minus x. To remove this proportionality constant, we use a constant called k, which is called spring constant. Okay, and this is the value of restoring force. F is equals to minus kx, and minus sign here shows that this force is acting in opposite direction of the displacement. So in this case, this force kx will act in opposite direction. And now some of you will ask why I have not written minus kx here, because understand it carefully, this minus is showing only direction, right? But here I have already denoted the direction, that this force is in this direction. So this is kx. Okay. Okay. So this minus is showing direction, that x and f are opposite. So in this you can clearly see now x is in this side and f is in this side. That means they are opposite to each other, right? Okay. So from here let us define spring constant, that is this K. So this K can be written as magnitude of F upon X. If X is 1 meters, that is if your displacement is 1 meters, then your spring constant will become equal to restoring force. So we can define the spring constant as the restoring force per unit displacement. Okay, so restoring force is spring constant is nothing but restoring force per unit displacement. Okay, so now see, as we have stretched the spring, so some work will be done in stretching that spring, obviously, and that because there is a restoring force, so against that we have to do some work in stretching the spring. This work done gets stored as potential energy of the spring. Okay, so now as you know, dw is nothing but f dot dx. I am assuming dx to be a small displacement. Now as I have told you, the work done would be done against your restoring force. So as restoring force is given by minus kx. Okay, so now a dot b is ab cos theta, and as I told you, f and dx are in opposite direction, so the angle is 180 degree between them. So from here, cos 180 is minus 1, minus minus will cancel out, so you will get dw to be kx dx. And now we are integrating the work done from 0 to w and the displacement from 0 to x. So 0 implies the mean position and x implies the stretched position where we have stretched the spring up to, that is x displacement. Okay, so now when you will integrate it, you will get the work done to be half kx square. So this work done gets stored as the potential energy of the spring. So okay, so now this was the formula for potential energy of a spring, that is half kx square. Now look again at one condition. Again, this is O, which is mean position of the spring, and let us say this position is the maximum maximum position up to which this spring can stretch, and I am denoting that distance by r. So A is the position up to which this mass can be possibly put, that is the maximum stretch in this string is r, or you can say maximum displacement is r. Okay, so I'll explain this later. First of all, let us talk about these two. Okay, so now O is your mean position and A becomes your extreme position. As I told you earlier, O is mean position, right? Now can you tell me at O which energy would be maximum, kinetic energy or potential energy? See, because here displacement is 0, and as you know, the formula of potential energy is half kx square. If x is 0 at this point, that is displacement is 0, that means potential energy becomes 0. So we can say at mean position, kinetic energy is maximum. Similarly, at this position, that is extreme position, the displacement is maximum, so you would be having maximum potential energy. And kinetic energy becomes 0 because after this point it will start going in this direction. So we can say at this point it has maximum potential energy. So remember this, it is very important that at mean position of the spring there is only kinetic energy, and at extreme position potential energy is there. Okay, so this is the basic rule on which we will be doing many questions. Okay, so at mean position kinetic energy is maximum, and at your extreme position potential energy is maximum. Okay, so now the same case, and in this case it is asked what can be the maximum velocity of this mass. Okay, so now you know about conservation of energy, that is energy of this spring at any position should remain same. So we would be using that thing here only. Okay, so you are given these two cases and you are asked what would be the maximum velocity of this spring. So first of all, tell me what would be the position at which it would be having maximum velocity, mean position or extreme position? Mean position. Okay, why mean position? Because as I told you here only that at mean position kinetic energy is maximum, that means V maximum will also be at mean position, right? So now let us put the energy at O and energy at A to be equal due to conservation of energy. So energy at O should be equal to energy at A. Energy at O is only kinetic energy, that is half mv maximum square. And energy at A is the potential energy because A is the position of your maximum stretching point. So that is half k r square, because here displacement is r, right? So from these two equations, half will cancel out. You will get v square max to be k r square by m. So v maximum will come to be under root of k r square by m, and this maximum will be at O. Okay, so this is the maximum velocity. Now let us take one more thing here, this one. So this is your mean position, this is your extreme position. Now B is a mid position, that is lying between O and A, and let us say its displacement is x. Okay, so now it is asked what would be the energy at this point B. See, because this is a mid position, that means at this position the spring will be having kinetic energy as well as potential energy. So if we write down potential energy first, let us say, as I have said, displacement is x, so therefore potential energy at this point will be half kx square, and let us assume it is having any velocity v at this position B. So kinetic energy would be plus half mv square. So this is the energy at any point B, a sum of kinetic energy and potential energy. Okay, so now according to conservation of energy, energy at mean position is equals to energy at extreme position, that is A, and it is also equal to energy at any position B. So you can use this thing, that is you can put any of them equal and you can calculate whatever thing is asked in the question. So let me give you some examples how to do that. So here is a case, again this is a spring, a mass attached at O. Now this spring is stretched up to this position, that is x, and then it is pushed here, that is it is given a velocity v naught in this direction. Okay, so again listen to it. This is the mean position. The spring is stretched up to a distance x, and after that at this position it is pushed inwards, that is it is given a velocity v naught in inward direction. Then the question is what would be the velocity at O. Okay, so as I told you, we will be using conservation of energy. Now we have two positions O and A, so let us calculate their energy and put them equal. So now kinetic energy at O, that is it is a mean position, therefore kinetic energy will be maximum. Let us assume the velocity at O is v, so total energy at O will be half m v square, right? And now total energy at A. See, if you have given a velocity of v naught to it, that means due to this v naught, total energy at A will be half m v naught square, that is kinetic energy, plus half k x square due to this displacement. So this is the energy, right? Now, so you can equate them equal now due to conservation of energy. So half m v square would be equal to half m v naught square plus half k x square. Again half will cancel out, you will get this term, and from this you can easily calculate v, which would come to be under root of v naught square plus kx square by m. So this is the velocity at v. Okay, so see we have how easily we have calculated the velocity which is asked in the question by just equating the energies. So in every question of spring, mostly you just have to calculate energy at those different positions and you have to equate them. Okay, so let us take one more question before that. Now look at this one also. Again now it is asked, if you have given it a velocity v naught, what would, see, if you have pushed it here, it will come here and it will cross this position also, because obviously it would be having some more force in this direction. So therefore it is asked, when you give a velocity v naught to it, what will be the maximum compression in the spring? So this position is up to mean position. So let us suppose x naught is the maximum compression when it is given a velocity v naught here. So now you have to calculate this maximum compression. So now let us calculate the energy at B. So if we are assuming B to be the maximum compression, what energy would be there? Only potential energy, because that also becomes a extreme position. Okay, so total energy at B will be half k x naught square. So again, if I have put the energy at B and energy at O, that is mean position, to be equal due to conservation of energy, so that will give you half kx naught square, half m. We have just calculated v in first question. So put the value of v square here. So that will be v naught square plus kx square by m. From here you can easily calculate x naught, which will come to be under root of mv naught square upon k plus x square. Okay, and one more thing, always remember, calculate the answer only on those terms, only of those terms which are given in the question. For example, in this question, m, spring constant k, the displacement x, and your v naught and x naught, all these terms are given. I have not calculated the answer in terms of v because v was not given in the question. We have calculated it. So because v naught was given in the question, so always calculate the answer in those terms of constants which are given to you in the question. Remember this. Okay. Okay, so let us take one more question. Again, this is a spring. It is kept like this. Now, this mass m is traveling with the velocity of v towards the spring. And the question is, what would be the maximum compression in the spring? Obviously, when it will strike the spring, there will be a compression in it. So, the question is, what would be the maximum compression? So, again, because at this position, it is having some kinetic energy, that is half mv square. And when it will stretch it, when it will compress it, let us suppose that maximum compression is x. So at that position, it would be having only potential energy, that is half kx square. So from here, you can easily calculate x, that is under root of mv square by k. So this is the maximum compression when this block will strike this spring. Okay. So these were some cases of spring. Now let us draw a graph of variation of energy of the spring with distance. Okay. So on x-axis we have plotted distance. So this is your minus r to plus r. That is, this is your maximum compression and this is your maximum stretching point, right? And on y-axis we have plotted energy. Now O is your mean position obviously, and these are extreme positions. Now you know potential energy is kinetic energy is maximum at mean position. So look at this dotted graph, pink dotted graph. This is showing you the kinetic energy because see, it is maximum at mean position and it becomes minimum at extreme position. So this dotted line is showing you the kinetic energy. Now potential energy is just opposite to that. That is, it is minimum at mean position and it becomes maximum at extreme positions, right? But as I told you, due to conservation of energy, total energy also always remains same. So this line is showing you the total energy which is same at every point. So this red line shows you the total energy. So this is the graph of variation of energy of the spring with distance. Okay, so I asked you one question in previous lecture that if a man is having a block on his head and if he is moving in forward direction, what is the work done by the men? See, can you tell me in which direction the man is applying force to lift this block? Its weight is acting downward. So man has to apply a force in upward direction, right? And you know also whenever you lift something, you are applying the force in upward direction. So this man is applying the force in upward direction and displacement is in forward direction. That is, the displacement and force applied by the men are perpendicular to each other. And as I told you, work done in this case will come to be 0. So work done by the man will come to be 0. Okay students, so after going through today's lecture, you can do question number 9, 10, 11, 12 and 17 from your chapter number 6. Thank you.